Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to LinkedIn Live, Keeper Live. My name is Kate Hassett. I'm the Director of Social Media and Influencer Marketing here at Keeper. And I'm super excited to invite back our guests that we've had before. Great conversation. Anne-Marie Van Den Herk of Mind the Gap Cyber LLC. Welcome, Anne-Marie. How are you?
I am fabulous, Kat. How are you? This is my favorite month. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Yes.
Woo!
I'm glad someone's excited. October is a month that we celebrate around Keeper. I'm sure you guys celebrate at Mind the Gap. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's just a month that we take the time to really dive into cybersecurity topics besides just passwords, all the different ways that cybersecurity affects us. And this week, we're going to be focusing on social media and cybersecurity, a topic that both of us are very, very interested in. Most importantly, cybersecurity in the social media era, why businesses should be looking at social media as a cyber threat, and how cyber criminals use social media. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Anne-Marie, for being here. If you're watching live on LinkedIn or Twitter, please leave a comment for us. Let us know where you're watching from, and we will go ahead and get started. So first off, Anne-Marie, talk briefly. You've been on the show obviously before, but tell us a little bit about Mind the Gap and how you got here and what's going on over there.
Certainly, thanks. Mind the Gap. It is my mission, essentially, to make it harder on the cyber criminals to get information that's important to you. Hence the name Mind the Gap. I mind the gaps in your cybersecurity. The work that I'm doing, I'm focusing on empowering people. So social media, cybersecurity, particularly around cybersecurity, there's a lot of fear and unknown and misinformation and lack of knowledge. So my goal is, and that's 12 months, it's not just during October, is to empower people to understand cybersecurity, understand how to keep their information, both personal and business, safe from people who would like to steal it.
Absolutely. And that's obviously something that we care a great deal about as Keeper as well. So, really excited for the conversation. And so, you also wrote a book. Tell us about that.
Yes, I did. I wrote a book. Oh, and my cat has decided he needs to come visit. So I certainly hope we're not going to have a kitty butt in. I
I
wrote the
wouldn't do
book
a
on
Keeper live
social
without a pet appearance.
without a cat. Yes, that was Oppenheimer, my esteemed colleague. Funny enough, I wrote the book on social media crisis communications. So how apt that here we are on social media, and my cat moons your audience. Oh, look, he's back. This is horrible. I'm so embarrassed.
No, it's
But
fine.
yeah, but yes, the book essentially helps companies and individuals understand crisis communications, and specifically around social media. Uh, it's a different kind of beast from your traditional crisis communications, but today everything is all intertwined, and that's essential that companies and organizations realize that it's all connected now. It's not just different pieces. It's all in one woven web.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll leave a link in the comments for your book so people can check it out. But it's very interesting that you say that because it's a conversation that I have with marketing, social media marketing professionals, particularly, is that we all need to be trained in crisis comm, particularly as it pertains to cyber attacks and cybersecurity. So it's not really something you learn in school. You have to learn it on the job. So really excited to have you dive into this topic.
Well, I'm glad to. I'm passionate about the topic. So ask away, ask away. I'm excited to share. I'm fired
Awesome.
up.
Awesome. Let's
Grr.
get started. So, what do you think is the biggest myth that people believe about their data and how it pertains to social media?
I think, I don't know if it's a myth, but more a misconception. Um, I don't think people understand how much data people are collecting, or social media platforms are collecting about you. Um, and just to give an example of that, a friend recently, yesterday, in fact, posted that she took one of those quizzes on Facebook about, what's your favorite color, and hers happened to be purple. And next thing you know, all the ads that come up anywhere she goes, not just on Facebook, are showing her purple items. So the amount of data, yes, the amount of data that is being collected is astonishing. And I don't think people fully realize the vastness of it. And while this was used to target clothes, like shirts, purple shirts, it also has a more sinister application, which is, it can influence how you see the news. It can influence how you vote. It influences how you feel about other people. So if the data that's being collected can affects a lot more than just your wallet.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point, because I think so many people out there are worried about that this idea of these smart home devices listening to us. And the main example that I
They
hear
are.
is like, well, okay, yes. But the main example that I hear is that you mention something, and then 3 weeks later you get a Facebook ad for it, right? So it must be the
Mhm.
Google Home that's listening to us. But the algorithm, there's other ways. The algorithm on social
Yes.
media can determine your buying habits based on the information that you've put out there into the world. And it's not necessarily because your accounts are public or private, right? It's the information that you have physically given Facebook, who then bought Instagram, who then bought WhatsApp, and then you're wondering why they pinpoint your next purchase. So yes, we just purposely give that data away. I'm glad you said that.
Right. And not knowing the full ramifications of it. I mean,
Yeah,
data is money. Data is gold. Data is power now. So
absolutely.
the more data you have, the better for whatever organization.
Absolutely. So that kind of addresses like how consumers should be thinking about their data and social media. But what about businesses? Do you think that companies should be viewing social media as a cyber threat to their business? Why or why not?
They should be. And here's why. There's two segments here. There's one, your business account. If you have a business Facebook page, or a business Twitter, or a company page on LinkedIn, that's over here. And yes, that can be hacked and manipulated. Recently, U.S. naval warship, their Facebook page was hacked, and it streamed an online war game for hours upon hours. You have that over there. I mean, that'll affect your reputation, and that's a concern over there. But then you have over here, which is your staff.
Mm.
Your staff are on social media, and threat actors like Oppenheimer here would like to get information. Now, your social media platforms are just rich with nuggets of information. And I've got to touch on passwords, because I'm like the password queen of everywhere. I know.
You
Yeah,
are.
you're
I
probably
thought
the
I was.
queen. You are okay. All right, I'm the Grand Duchess. Uh, you know, wait, what's Downton Abbey? Who's the not the Grand Duchess, the Dower? I'm going to be the Dower
Okay,
of
great.
passwords. Yes, and at this point I have a cat, so maybe I'll be like Austin. I'll be Doctor No, Mrs. No, or something like that. But anyway, it's rich, and a lot of time, most people, unfortunately, and this too, their passwords are from a lot of information that they give out, like their children's name, their birthday, their pet, which can be easily gleaned. And if you are a threat actor and you're looking to target an organization, you're going to do your research. And one way is combing LinkedIn or Facebook or
Mhm.
Twitter, anywhere that mentions a company's name. So you can gather a lot of intelligence on a person and a company just based on their social media. So
Yeah,
it is a threat.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah, those social media games where you're like, if your birthday was the amount of money in your bank account, what would it be? And then you got to think about how many people use their birthday as their
yeah.
password. So I
It's
definitely
like
understand.
it's hack me, let's fish me, social
Yeah,
media me, so social engineer.
absolutely.
It's all that, and people don't really realize it's in our nature to want to share and put things out there and connect with people. Uh, while that's great, but there's also that risk that there are people who are watching you and wanting to get that information to get to either you
Mhm.
or your employer.
Yeah. And, I'm glad you said that because another question that I get from, or more of a statement that I hear from people all the time is, why would somebody want to hack me? Like, what do I have worth giving? But, it's not necessarily what's in your Facebook. And another habit that we know of people is that they reuse passwords across platforms. So maybe the cyber criminal doesn't necessarily care what's in your Facebook account.
Right.
You're not like me where you have access to business accounts on your social media, but they're going to bank on the fact that you reuse that password across multiple different
Yeah.
accounts, maybe your bank, maybe your credit karma, places that ADP, right? Like places that have other
Yeah.
sensitive information. So that's another way that you're putting, if you're using those passwords also in business accounts, you're putting the business at risk.
Which a lot of people do.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings us back to the other question. What is the information that people want in someone's social media login besides passwords? What are they looking for?
Well, passwords and access and credentials. That's the
Mhm.
number one reason why um, they're trolling those accounts. But also, it's how to befriend you to either get information or get your money. Um, look at the romance scams that are happening, and you know, people are just looking to be able to scam you and connect with you.
Right. Social engineering hacks on social media have
Mhm.
become huge. I can't tell you how many times I get a friend request from someone that I'm already friends with. And as soon as you go to their original page, they're like, don't accept that. I've been hacked. So, it's just
Yeah,
another way to spread malicious, links or get more information about you. So
sure.
yeah, great point.
Malware.
Yes, malware. Yes, ma'am. What are your thoughts on single sign-on for social media accounts? It's become really common that when you create an account for those online quizzes, like you were talking about, it says sign in with Facebook. Are these a risk?
Sure. um, you're basically giving access, the key to how many houses that you own. I just don't be lazy. Don't be lazy, folks. Take the time and go ahead and sign up via an email and create your own password. Um,
Absolutely. And
just
store it in your
just don't
keeper vault.
risk it. Exactly. Store it. Yes. Yes. I mean, and not on a sticky note that everyone can see it on your computer when, people are walking by or cleaning your office. Um,
Absolutely. So we had kind of touched on this earlier when we talked about the social media accounts, but one thing that is constant is the updates to privacy and terms, especially recently
Mhm.
as things have changed, and it seems like you get an email or a notification every day from every account you have that's like, our terms and conditions have updated. Please read them. How can we stay up to date with the terms and conditions? Should we be reading every single one?
well, there's the ideal world, and then there's the real world. Um, The ideal world is, yes, you should be reading those. In reality, no one reads them, including lawyers. I have a lot of lawyer friends. They fully admit they have never read a terms of condition, terms of service or anything on any social media site. Um, I think what we have to remember is it, these sites are freemium sites. So when we sign up on Facebook or Twitter, we are giving up information for free because we're signing on for free. Um, so that's what we have to be aware of. I mean, yes, you should, if they do change or update, you should peruse them. But in reality, none of us are going to do that. I mean, and I'm pretty intense about that kind of stuff. I don't do it. I don't. And I know I should. And I know everyone thinks that way too, but no one does it. But I think when we sign up for these kind of free social platforms, we are giving permission to give away our data. And then you just have to think about how much are you willing to give up. So, and that means how active are you going to be on a platform and how much content are you going to share or photos or information. Yeah. We
Yeah.
live in the real world. The ideal world is great, but we all live in the real world. I mean, when was the last time you read one of those, actually clicked on the link and read it?
If it doesn't have to do with work, rarely.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what companies are hoping for. And I know GDRP and then the California Data Protection Act, I know that's what they're trying to do is cut down on the globbity gloop of these kind of agreements where your eyes glaze over once you read the first sentence. And I think that's something that we need to start moving towards, just as a general practice, is make it easy to read, make it, readable by anybody. I mean,
Yeah. You shouldn't need a
I've
law
done a lot
degree
of,
to know what information Facebook is collecting from me.
right,
Is
exactly.
everything.
And right, so that's out to organizations that, if you're going to do these sorts of things, make it readable for people. Let the communicator and the attorney be in the same room and kind of hash it out as to how is this going to sound.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what about when we look back to social media fraud? How are businesses and individuals affected by that?
It affects everybody. Um, if you get hacked, uh, like we were talking about earlier, in terms of reuse of passwords, it affects your bottom line. It affects your
Mhm.
account. It affects your ability to get loans. It just has a snowball effect. Um, so that's why I constantly am like a broken record. Passwords, passwords, passwords. Make it hard. Make it
Yeah.
different. Change it up every 3 months. And given the current climate, every month. Change your passwords every month on your major accounts.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good point. And, when it comes to cybersecurity training at companies, it's hard to determine who's necessarily in charge of that. So you have obviously like the IT leadership team, which they're like you, they're thinking of passwords all the time, and not necessarily these people on the social media teams or the marketing team. So
Mhm.
whose job is it at an organization to make sure that cybersecurity is integrated with social media and the marketing team is educated on the data that's at risk?
Um, the okay, my answer is it's everyone's job. Everyone is the cybersecurity professional in an organization today, or they should be, because
Mhm.
everyone has a role in keeping the organization safe. Um, in many ways, we have to remove silos.
Mm.
Um, And a lot of organizations, they still have it. You got your little silo, and this is IT, and here's marketing, and social media is somewhere, and we kind of don't know where to put it because is it marketing or is it PR or say, I mean, it's kind of floating out there. Um, that's for a totally different discussion in a bar. Uh, but we need to break down those silos and get everyone communicating, because it's everyone's job. And with social media, you're real time.
Mm.
Everything is happening real time, and you have to react real time. Um, so in many ways, social media, you're sort of like the customer service team. That's also the front line. Social media is also a front line, the first line of defense
Yeah,
in any
absolutely.
kind of threat.
Yeah. And nowadays, it's used as support. It's used as so
Mhm.
much of that customer engagement model that
Everything.
a hack on a social media account is actually, it hurts your credibility. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it is a damaging event for your reputation. I mean, it is classified as a crisis. I mean, any sort of hack is a crisis, and is a catastrophic crisis. Yes, a social media account, people are like, oh, well, that's no big deal. It's like, yes, it is, because it affects your brand's ability to communicate effectively and with credibility. So it's
Yeah.
very important. Like you said, social media accounts now are being used for so many different purposes that, yeah.
Yeah, not to mention even influencers, because if your social media account is your business, we get contacted by influencers all the time that have gotten hacked and locked out of their Instagram, and they're asking me if I
Mhm.
can help retrieve it. It's kind of like, oh, it's too late. Like, I could have helped you protect your password, but now I can't do anything for you.
Well, yeah. Influencers, we have to do another discussion on influencers. Yeah. That
Absolutely. I
one
am
we
down.
won't have to do we won't have to do in a bar. We'll do it somewhere where we can just be like, um, but anyway, that is, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself. I was at the beach
Hey,
this afternoon.
I
So you
saw.
saw
Yeah,
a
I'm
lot of
very
that. They
jealous.
saw a lot of that going on, the Instagram boyfriends.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, so influencers. That's a totally different discussion. But for brands working with influencers, that is a concern of them being hacked or their accounts being hijacked. So that's definitely a concern. I mean, yeah, that's sort of like a third party vendor hack,
Right.
and it's just as damaging.
Absolutely. What are some tips or tools that you want to share with the people to continue using social media, but feeling safe doing so?
I think my main tip philosophy is your password. That's essential. Uh, Update it, keep it difficult. Use a password manager so you can remember it. um, that's one essential, but also it's be aware and be mindful of what you're doing on social media, what you're saying, what you're posting. um, People can glean a lot of information about that. If I were talking to my 30-year-old self, well, 40-year-old self, I guess, because that's when social media started like, kicking off. It was pretty uh, before that. Yeah, I'm that old. I would tell myself to post less and less information, because there's a lot of information out there. I mean, I know I am my company, so I have to be out in the public eye on social media just for business. Uh, but I would recommend people be really mindful of what you're posting. Are you posting things about your children? It makes me cringe And scares me when I see a lot of people public posting photos of their children, letting them know where their kids go to school and what activity they're doing, like right now. That's such a security risk. You're broadcasting, please come take my child. I know that sounds dramatic, but these are things that we have to really be aware of because not everyone on social media is good spirited. There are some bad people.
Yeah,
Just be aware.
absolutely.
Passwords and just be aware and be present on social media of what you're posting and what information you're actually sharing. And don't
Yeah.
take those quizzes.
Think before you post. Don't take the social media
Yes.
quizzes. Yes, all great advice.
Yes.
And then from somebody who's worked in social media, like I really urge you if you're listening and you work in social media to please reach out and let me share some information with you about Keeper. From a business perspective, I will say like when I worked at an agency before I came to Keeper, before I knew what kind of risk social media really was in the cyberspace, we were definitely saving passwords of clients in an unsafe way. We were sharing passwords in an unsafe way. And Keeper for Business really solves this. It's a cybersecurity tool, but it's a great tool for social media marketers. It helps you share passwords with different members on the team, different members in different departments, and it also saves those MFA codes right there in the record. So it makes it easy for people to onboard, offboard, log in, and it makes sure that you're doing everything safely. So if it's something that you've been thinking about, if you know at your organization you're not handling passwords in the correct way, please reach out and I'd love to share more. Anne-Marie, anything else you'd like to leave us with?
I would just like to leave everybody with, let's make being cyber safe a group activity, not just one department. We're in this together. Let's champion cybersecurity. We can do it
I love it. Not just in October, but every month out of the year.
every month.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate having you back and look forward to having you on KeeperLive in the future.
I hope so. I'll love to be back.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. This session of KeeperLive was part of our weekly Cybersecurity Awareness Month series. Every Thursday at 3 Central, you can watch a member of the Keeper team like myself talk to a cybersecurity expert like Anne-Marie about a trending topic. Next week, Keeper's VP of Marketing, Dan Nemeth, is going to be joining Marnie Wilking. She's Wayfair's Global Head of Security and Technology Risk Management, as well as a board member of Cybercrime Support Network. They're going to be discussing e-commerce security best practices ahead of the very popular holiday shopping season. So tune in next Thursday, 10/28 at 3 p.m. Central to watch. This has been Kate Hassett, Keeper's Director of Social Media and Influencer Marketing on KeeperLive. Until next time.